Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with senior political correspondent David Drucker. And David, Democrats are hoping that a Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade, which may be coming, unclear, will help them in the midterms, throw them a lifeline. Do you see that happening?
Well, I don't know if anybody sees that happening, Sarah. What I felt so fascinating about the interviews I've been doing this week about this issue and talking to political strategists on both sides of the aisle is nobody really knows what's going to happen. As one Republican strategist told me, we've been planning and hoping and preparing for this for 30 years. We've been polling on this, running focus groups on this for all of that time, trying to figure out how to get the advantage on this really big issue every 2 years, every 4 years. Now that it's finally maybe here, we got to start all over again. We don't really know what to think. And I heard that from a Democratic strategist as well, who said that, well, I have to go and poll on this now. And if anybody thinks they know exactly what's going to happen, then they don't know what they're talking about. So what Republicans are looking for, at least in the 2022 contest, is does this thing galvanize Democrats, reframe the debate for the 2022 midterm elections around abortion rather than inflation and economic concerns and things that are really putting Republicans in a position to possibly win in a romp. What Democrats are looking for is, does this move moderate white women, particularly in the suburbs, and young women generally into the Democratic camp? Moderate white women oftentimes have a conservative sensibility, have voted Democratic recently in the Trump era, but often will vote for Democrats. And young women have been moving away from Joe Biden, even though younger voters typically vote for Democrats. Now faced with the prospect of not having access to abortion, something they haven't had to contemplate in their lifetime, maybe it energizes them and brings them back to the fold. So that's what Democrats are looking for.
Are Democrats potentially running the risk, though, that if they focus too much on this issue, they miss out on, the opportunity to craft some sort of economic argument that more directly confronts what voters are concerned about?
So I do think they run that risk. I think that's a good point. I think that we don't even know yet if Democrats are going to end up united on this issue for this reason. It's possible the Democratic base is going to ask a Democratic-controlled Congress and a president to do more than they're lawfully, constitutionally able to do. Sure, Democrats could agree to get rid of the legislative filibuster. They could pass a law, and Biden could sign it, but that law would be in jeopardy almost immediately the next time Republicans have control of the House, Senate, and the White House, and that could be coming. But we don't know yet if they're going to be unified. What I would say, though, is given that everything else they're doing isn't working, maybe it's worth a shot to at least focus on something that energizes their base, tends to be a position that the party broadly supports. And, unless they choose to go all in on doing something about inflation rather than saying that there are other factors involved that we can't control and we're doing everything we can, well, maybe this is something that, at least could help them narrow the enthusiasm gap with Republicans and stem losses in November. They're still going to lose a lot, let's say, but maybe they would stem those losses, and that could be valuable.
And finally, is there a risk of Republicans sort of overplaying their hand? You're seeing it in some states, pursuing bans that go beyond, where the mainstream of America is, which tends to favor some restrictions, but not draconian ones.
Right, and I think that's a really good point. What we're seeing in some of these Republican-controlled states are abortion bans without exceptions for rape, incest, severe fetal abnormalities, and this is the sort of thing that I think could galvanize female voters, in particular, but not just female voters, in opposition to and in support of in opposition to these particular abortion restrictions and push them to support Democrats. Now, I think then the question is that something more likely to happen in 2022 or 2024, the next presidential election? I think that it's a real open question as to whether Republicans benefit from the overturning of Roe v. Wade politically in 2024. In fact, there's a chance it could hurt them because they're then going to have to run on the reality of Roe versus Wade being overturned, if it is, and how abortion rights have been restricted in various states. And even though you have Democrats and Republicans sort of sorted in blue states and red states, I think that as voters in all sorts of states look at how the new world of abortion restrictions is coming to fruition, I think voters, even in blue states where it's very protected, those rights are very protected, could look around and not be happy with it. I also think there are some purple states, some swing states, where Republican-controlled legislatures and governors, let's say, have passed some abortion restrictions, and if voters there feel they've gone too far, those sorts of things could hurt Republicans. I think this is more likely in 2024 than 2022.
Well, David, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more reporting from David and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.